To the outside world, Marie Osmond's life looked perfect: fame, success, and a family legacy built under bright television lights. But behind the polished image was a painful past she kept hidden for years. In her memoir, Marie finally opened up about the emotional struggles and fear she carried since childhood. The real shock came later when she finally spoke about the person connected to the abuse she experienced as a child, breaking decades of silence. Marie Osmond's name had been famous for years, but very few people understood how difficult her life truly was from the start. Long before the hit songs and TV fame, Marie was a little girl growing up inside a strict household filled with pressure and non-stop expectations. Born Olive Marie Osmond on October 13, 1959 in Ogden, she was raised in a huge Mormon family that stood out everywhere they went. She was the only girl among 9 children, and life inside the Osmond home ran like a non-stop machine. Music controlled everything. Her parents, Olive and George Osmond, pushed the children hard, turning the family into a polished performing group. In her memoir, Might As Well Laugh About It Now, Marie explained how every child had to master instruments, practice constantly, and help teach the others. Marie was assigned the marimba even though she hated it. Personal choices barely mattered because the family focus was always work, discipline, and performance. When the Osmond brothers became huge stars during the 1960s, Marie mostly stayed in the background at first, but avoiding show business was never really possible. At only 4 years old, she appeared on The Andy Williams Show, beginning a career in front of cameras before she was old enough to understand the pressure that came with it. Years later, Marie admitted her childhood was far tougher than fans imagined. She remembered wanting to play outside like normal kids, but hearing no over and over because rehearsals and performances always came first. Even as a child, she felt pressure to protect the family's flawless image while quietly dealing with emotional pain nobody could see. For a short time, Marie stepped away from performing, but by the early 1970s, her mother encouraged her to record a solo album. That decision changed everything. Even though her brothers focused on pop music, Marie took a gamble on country music instead. In 1973, Paper Roses exploded to #1 on the country charts, turning her into a major star on her own terms. As her fame grew, Donnie and Marie quickly became one of television's biggest sibling duos. Their music success led to Donnie and Marie in 1975, one of the hottest variety shows on television. To viewers, the Osmonds looked like America's perfect family, talented, polished, and wholesome. But behind the scenes, Marie was privately struggling with trauma connected to someone close to the family. She later explained the person was not a relative, but the emotional damage stayed with her for years. The pain affected nearly every part of her life. Marie admitted she struggled with fear, confusion, and insecurity while trying to survive life in the spotlight. Even as she stood beside huge celebrities, she often felt painfully out of place. One moment that deeply stayed with her happened while appearing on the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. Meeting Cher left Marie feeling invisible beside someone she saw as effortlessly glamorous and confident. And as bigger stars kept entering her world, those insecurities only grew stronger behind the smile everyone else believed was real. Week after week, Marie found herself standing beside some of the biggest beauty icons of the 1970s. Women like Farrah Fawcett, Jaclyn Smith, Cheryl Ladd, and Raquel Welch. Even as her own fame exploded, Marie secretly felt like she could never measure up. While audiences watched glamorous TV moments at home, a much darker reality was unfolding behind the scenes. During those years, Marie also dealt with uncomfortable attention from older men working around the show. She later opened up about several unsettling experiences with male guest stars, including one involving Groucho Marx that she described as deeply inappropriate. But behind all the fame and smiles, another pressure was quietly destroying her confidence. At the height of Donnie and Marie, television executives became obsessed with her appearance. Even though Marie weighed barely over 100 pounds, producers still pressured her to lose more weight. One studio executive reportedly humiliated her, saying she was embarrassing the family because of how she looked. The comment crushed her emotionally. Marie was still a teenager, yet she suddenly felt responsible for everyone working on the show. The pressure pushed her into dangerous eating habits. She pretended to eat around others while secretly starving herself for days at a time. Sometimes she survived on little more than water mixed with lemon juice and syrup. Even when she felt physically weak during performances, she still believed she was not thin enough. At the same time, the workload itself was brutal. Back then, entertainment schedules for young performers were far less protected. Marie regularly worked exhausting days filled with rehearsals, scripts, choreography, recordings, and non-stop television production. The pressure would have overwhelmed most adults, let alone teenagers trying to figure out who they were while living under constant public attention. For years, Marie kept forcing herself forward because that was what the family expected. But eventually, someone entered her life who gave her the kind of support she had been missing for years. During the peak of Donnie and Marie, Marie unexpectedly formed a close friendship with television legend Lucille Ball. When Lucille appeared on the show, the two connected almost immediately. Away from the cameras, they spent time together playing Scrabble while Lucille shared stories and advice from decades in Hollywood. For Marie, it became more than friendship. It was the kind of female mentorship and guidance she had desperately needed growing up surrounded mostly by brothers and non-stop pressure. Not long after that friendship began, Marie faced one of the biggest career choices of her life. In the late 1970s, she was offered the role of Sandy in Grease, the part that later turned Olivia Newton-John into a worldwide superstar. But Marie shocked Hollywood by turning it down. She reportedly disliked the storyline about changing yourself to gain approval from a man, and she chose to walk away from the opportunity entirely. Around the same time, Marie and Donnie also found themselves caught in one of the biggest controversies of their careers. During a tense interview with Barbara Walters in 1978, questions about the Osmonds' Mormon faith quickly became uncomfortable. Walters directly asked whether women were treated as secondary figures within the church. Marie defended her beliefs, but many viewers felt her comments sounded old-fashioned even for that era. The interview became even more awkward when the discussion shifted toward racial restrictions that existed inside the church at the time. Donnie struggled through the explanation, while Marie mostly stayed quiet beside him. The interview triggered heavy criticism and damaged the family's carefully polished image with many viewers. At the same time, Marie's private life was becoming increasingly chaotic behind closed doors. Although audiences viewed her as America's sweet and wholesome good girl, her relationships were far more complicated than people realized. In 1979, at only 20 years old, she became engaged to acting student Jeff Creighton. But despite how serious marriage was within her religious upbringing, the relationship ended just 2 months later. That breakup opened the door to a completely different chapter of her life. Soon Marie found herself linked to several famous celebrity names, including Chips star Eric Estrada and singer Andy Gibb from the Bee Gees family. Suddenly, her world looked far less sheltered than the image audiences had associated with the Osmonds for years. Eventually, Marie searched for stability. In 1982, she married basketball player Stephen Lyle Craig, and the couple welcomed their son shortly afterward. For a brief moment, it looked like Marie had finally found peace between fame and family life. But professionally, her career soon hit a rough patch. By 1984, her music momentum had slowed down badly. Her single, Who's Counting, struggled on the charts, raising fears that her popularity might be fading. But instead of disappearing, Marie fought back hard. In 1985, she made a major comeback with the country album There's No Stopping Your Heart, which produced 2 #1 country hits and proved she was still a major force in music. While her career recovered, her marriage did not. Marie and Stephen eventually drifted apart, divorcing after only 3 years together. The breakup hit her hard emotionally. But almost exactly 1 year later, Marie remarried. In 1986, she married Brian Blosel, and together they built a large family with 7 children, including both biological and adopted kids. From the outside, it looked like Marie finally had everything she had always wanted: fame, family, motherhood, and stability. But privately, she was heading into one of the darkest chapters of her life. After one pregnancy, Marie began struggling with overwhelming sadness, physical exhaustion, and frightening emotional crashes. Doctors eventually diagnosed her with postpartum depression. The experience completely shook her. Marie later admitted there were moments where the emotional pressure became unbearable. At one point, mentally exhausted and overwhelmed, she got into her car and drove for hours without even fully knowing where she was going. It was less about escaping and more about trying to outrun the emotional collapse happening inside her life behind the scenes. The physical effects of Marie's emotional struggles became impossible to ignore. Her body would suddenly lock into painful muscle spasms, sometimes leaving her unable to even get out of bed. In her memoir, Behind the Smile, Marie later described that period as the result of non-stop pressure crashing down all at once, exhausting work schedules, motherhood, and years of pushing herself far beyond her limits. Doctors warned her to slow down, but Marie kept convincing herself she could handle everything alone. Eventually, the pressure exploded in devastating fashion. She later recalled collapsing onto her kitchen floor in tears, completely overwhelmed by the gap between the cheerful TV personality audiences saw and the woman privately falling apart behind closed doors. As her mental health worsened, her career also began slipping away. By the 1990s, country music had changed dramatically. The industry was moving toward a rougher and more rebellious image, leaving Marie's wholesome reputation feeling outdated. She kept releasing music, but the big hits slowly stopped coming. Eventually, the truth became impossible to ignore. Her years as a chart-topping star were fading fast. Hoping to reinvent herself, Marie reunited with Donnie in 1998 for the daytime talk show Donnie and Marie. The goal was simple: bring back the sibling chemistry fans loved during the 1970s. But behind the scenes, things quickly became tense. During the original show years earlier, Donnie had mostly taken charge, while Marie followed along quietly. By the late 1990s, that dynamic no longer worked. Marie was no longer willing to stay silent or play the passive younger sister role. Arguments reportedly became so common that producers had to step in and calm things down between the siblings. Even Donnie later admitted he needed to stop acting controlling. But by then, the damage had already strained their relationship badly. At the same time, Marie herself was gaining a reputation for being demanding during productions. Stories circulated about special lighting requests, oversized dressing rooms, and detailed backstage demands involving family members and even pets. Whether all the rumors were true or exaggerated, one thing became obvious: the atmosphere around the show had turned stressful. After only 2 seasons, the series was canceled. Still, Marie refused to disappear quietly. In 2004, she tried reinventing herself again with a radio program called Marie and Friends, aimed at longtime loyal fans who still supported her career. But once again, the comeback failed to fully connect. After only 10 months, the radio show was canceled too. And just when it seemed things could not get worse, Marie suddenly found herself at the center of frightening headlines in 2006 after being hospitalized under mysterious circumstances. Because very little information was released at first, rumors exploded everywhere. Tabloids immediately connected the situation to her past mental health struggles, and before long, stories began spreading that Marie had attempted to take her own life. The speculation spiraled fast. Shortly after leaving the hospital, Marie's representatives strongly denied those rumors and explained her hospitalization was actually linked to a severe reaction to medication. Even so, once Hollywood gossip starts, it rarely disappears completely. The whispers followed her for years afterward. But despite the non-stop scrutiny, Marie managed to remind audiences why they had connected with her for so long. In 2007, she joined Dancing with the Stars and quickly became one of the season's biggest fan favorites. Week after week, viewers rooted for her as she battled her way to a third-place finish. One of the most shocking moments came when Marie suddenly collapsed live on television right after a performance. The incident stunned viewers and instantly became one of the show's most replayed moments. Thankfully, she recovered quickly, but the collapse showed just how physically exhausting the competition had become. Then came another family twist. A few seasons later, Marie Osmond joined the show himself and ended up winning the entire competition. It became another chapter in the sibling rivalry that had followed them since childhood. Still, the experience also brought positive changes into Marie's life. Through constant rehearsals and training, she lost nearly 50 pounds. Unlike the cruel pressure she faced as a teenager, this transformation came from focusing on her health instead of impossible beauty standards. With heart disease running in her family, Marie saw the weight loss as a major lifestyle change rather than an attempt to satisfy Hollywood expectations. But peace never lasted long around her career. By 2009, Marie was suddenly pulled into another major public conflict involving her longtime manager, Carl Engelman, a man who had worked beside her for 35 years. According to Marie, the relationship collapsed after she allegedly uncovered financial misconduct connected to her money. The accusations shocked many people in the entertainment industry because Engelman had long been viewed as one of her closest professional allies. The fallout quickly turned ugly. Engelman denied wrongdoing and fired back with legal action, claiming Marie still owed him money. What started as a private business disagreement soon exploded into a bitter public fight filled with accusations from both sides. Eventually, the case moved into private arbitration, allowing the battle to settle away from cameras. Then Marie stepped into one of the most personal and surprising moments of her public life. In 2009, after her daughter Jessica came out as lesbian, Marie openly supported her despite the conservative religious image many people associated with the Osmond family. For Marie, it was never about politics or public image. It was about supporting her child and wanting her to live a happy and fulfilling life without shame. The moment surprised many critics and showed a different side of Marie that audiences had not fully seen before. As the 2000s began, Marie once again returned to television. In 2012, she launched her daytime variety series Marie on the Hallmark Channel. The show became a surprisingly strong success for the network and gave Marie more creative control than she had enjoyed in earlier parts of her career. Not long after, she began guest hosting on The Talk alongside names like Sarah Gilbert, Leah Remini, and Sharon Osbourne. Her chemistry with the panel worked so well that in 2019 she officially became a permanent co-host. That same year, Marie revealed one of the most traumatic stories of her life during an emotional discussion on the show. She shared that when she was only 16 years old, she survived a devastating car accident after blacking out behind the wheel, another terrifying chapter in a life already filled with emotional battles behind the fame. The crash was absolutely devastating. Marie slammed into the steering wheel with such force that she nearly lost an eye, and the impact even bent the metal frame of the car. Her mother, sitting beside her in the passenger seat, suffered life-threatening injuries after crashing into the windshield, including collapsed lungs. At the hospital, doctors separated them and warned Marie that her mother might not survive the night. The guilt crushed her instantly. Sitting alone as a terrified teenager, Marie became convinced she had caused her mother's death. During that emotional nightmare, she later shared that she experienced what she believed was a spiritual vision involving her grandfather. According to Marie, the experience gave her peace and reassured her that her mother would pull through. Against all odds, she survived, and the moment forever changed how Marie viewed faith, life, and death. But while things later appeared calm on the surface during her time on The Talk, major tension was quietly building behind the scenes. After only one season as a permanent co-host, Marie shocked viewers by suddenly announcing her exit from the show. The timing immediately raised suspicions because longtime executive producer John Redman had also recently left the series. Publicly, everyone tried to keep things friendly. Sharon Osbourne even posted supportive comments praising Marie online. Marie herself explained that she simply wanted to spend more time with her husband, children, and grandchildren after decades of non-stop work. At 60 years old, she said family mattered more to her than the exhausting grind of daily television production. But many viewers were not buying the explanation. Almost immediately, rumors exploded online claiming Marie's departure was far less voluntary than it looked. Fans began analyzing awkward moments between Marie and co-hosts like Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood. Supporters complained that Marie was often interrupted, talked over, or left out during heated discussions. Behind-the-scenes reports only fueled the speculation further. According to entertainment insiders, tension reportedly started almost as soon as Marie joined the panel. Some reports claimed Sharon and Cheryl allegedly did not want Marie on the show and pushed producers to remove her. Rumors even suggested threats of resignation happened privately if Marie stayed on the panel. At the same time, Carrie Ann Inaba was reportedly supportive of Marie and wanted her to remain on the show. The backstage alliances painted a picture of a divided set hidden underneath the polished smiles viewers saw on television every day. Neither Sharon nor Cheryl publicly confirmed the rumors, but fans continued speculating after certain comments made following Marie's exit. Viewers had already sensed something felt off long before headlines started appearing. Compared to the louder and more confrontational personalities around her, Marie often came across as softer, quieter, and isolated. According to additional reports, Marie also disliked constantly being pushed into a stereotypical good girl image because of her religious background and conservative lifestyle. By the time replacement rumors surfaced, insiders claimed Marie was no longer surprised by the possibility. Looking back, the entire situation only added to the talk's growing reputation for behind-the-scenes drama. Especially after former host Julie Chen later admitted her own exit had been complicated, many viewers started wondering if the real chaos on The Talk had always been happening off-camera instead of on it. Then came one of the most emotional revelations of Marie's life. In her memoir Behind the Smile, Marie opened up about the painful reality of childhood abuse and the long emotional scars it left behind. She explained that trauma does not always arrive in obvious ways. Some wounds are loud and immediate, while others stay buried quietly for years before the damage fully surfaces. For decades, Marie carried the trauma in silence. Even some of the people closest to her reportedly had no idea what she had experienced growing up. It was only later in life, after becoming a mother herself, that she finally found the strength to openly discuss being abused as a child. Looking back, Marie described a frightening pattern surrounding those experiences. The incidents reportedly happened around people her family trusted, and fear kept her trapped in silence. She later explained that she was manipulated into believing that speaking out would destroy her family and everything they had worked for. Marie clarified that the person involved was not a family member and did not remain part of her life long-term. But even after that chapter ended, the emotional impact never fully disappeared. She admitted the deepest damage was not only the events themselves, but how trauma affects confidence, trust, and emotional stability for years afterward. To the outside world, Marie was smiling in front of cameras as part of one of America's most famous entertainment families. Privately, though, she was carrying emotional pain that shaped how she viewed herself and the world around her. When people later questioned why she never reported the abuse at the time, Marie explained that discussions about trauma were often avoided during that era, especially in families afraid of shame or humiliation. So instead of speaking out, she buried the pain and kept moving forward. But emotional trauma rarely disappears simply because someone tries to ignore it. Even decades later, Marie admitted she still struggled with the emotional aftermath and spent years trying to understand that being harmed was never her fault. In 2019, while co-hosting The Talk, Marie opened up about another deeply personal consequence of that trauma. She explained that as a young child, the fear and emotional confusion left her questioning many things about herself. Later in life, she came to understand those feelings were connected to trauma and fear rather than defining her identity. Over time, one thing that helped her heal was the relationship she had with the men in her own family. Growing up surrounded by her brothers and father slowly helped rebuild her trust and sense of safety. Eventually, Marie realized the confusion and fear she carried were tied to painful experiences from childhood rather than who she truly was as a person. Years later, during an interview with Mehmet Oz, Marie spoke about that dark chapter with a sense of peace and closure. By then, she revealed that the people responsible for harming her were no longer alive, marking the end of one of the most painful stories hidden behind her public smile for decades. What do you think about everything Marie Osmond has revealed over the years? Do you believe Hollywood and the entertainment industry pushed young stars too far behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.